grab the clay buildup. I'll do clay buildup. And kind of go in and fill in some of these sharper cuts right through here. I'm just going to smooth out the face. Okay. And then let's go try to add in some more features. Go damn standard. I'm going to cut in that line from basically the corner of my mouth down to the corner of my nose. And then the nostrils I need to cut in. Here. I'm just using the damn standard and just kind of pushing in a little bit. Okay. Just a little bit. And then the lip line right here. Let's pull this in, cut that little line back in here since it kind of got smoothed out in damn standard. And then this little crease right here on the bottom of your lip, since that kind of change, it's like a different chain or textural change in your skin. I'm gonna take the damn standard and do a Z add. Mark that line. Okay. Build up and build this up just a little bit more. Like that. And then right under here, I need to kind of carve that in a little bit. So I'm gonna hold down Alt, carve that in. So something like that. Smooth. Looks a little more lip-like. Let's We'll have the grab the pinch. Make sure it's a Z add right here. I'll take this. Okay, I'm just gonna pinch right here. So see, it just kind of creases that bottom lip a little bit. And then that top lip, same thing. Okay. Very softly, just kind of soft, or just kind of smooth that out just a little bit. Damn standard. I may cut that line in again. And then just kind of keep building up if you need to. Like in general, the mouth needs to be moved down just a smidge. Let's see if we can lasso it. Let's soften that mask. Let's actually go a little bit further down. Right about there. Just a little bit. I think that'll work. Okay. All right, you guys ready to cut a mouth in? Okay. So we're going to be using an approach called ballooning. And let me show you guys just the general approach we're using. So ballooning. Have you guys used ballooning in Maya before? No? Have you guys used ballooning in Illustrator? Yeah? What does ballooning in Illustrator do? Where you can do things to what? So what's the result that you get with a balloon? Okay. All right, that's fine. That's fine. So a baleen is basically either a mathematical conjoining of different polygons or a mathematical cutting of one polygon by another polygon, so like a subtraction, or we can do a intersection between two polygonal shapes. So whatever that intersecting space is, we could make that into a polygon also. In Illustrator, we can do that with having, say, two polygonal shapes and basically just overlapping them and either joining, subtracting, or intersecting those shapes. Pretty easy. And we use that quite a lot in Illustrator for projects. I'm sure all of you guys have done that in FDA at some point, hopefully. But the cool thing is in Maya, we can do ballooning also. And I use this pretty damn heavily. It's a really, really good tool. So the basic premise of it is you're going to have your starting shape, which is the cylinder. Okay. You'll have a modifying shape. Now in ZBrush, it can be multiple shapes. We can actually stack modifiers on top of each other. So we can have our starting shape and we can have multiples of these cutters. But we're going to start with one right now. Okay. And then we can say, hey, I want you to cut or add or subtract from whatever the starting shape is. You guys with me? Okay. Adding is going to add those two shapes. Subtracting is going to subtract this shape from this shape. And the intersection, again, is going to be whatever is in between the two. So we need to be able to visualize what this is going to look like. So if I go over here to live baleen, you guys see this? Yeah? Everybody see live baleen? I'm going to click it. Now live balleening is actually turned on. So with this intersection, this addition, the preview we get is just what we see. I mean, we just see a sphere stuck in a cylinder. But if we go to subtraction, we get apparently everything subtracts because it's not actually working right. Why isn't it working right? Let me try this. Make Polymesh 3D. Let's append. Sphere. There we go. Now it's working. It probably wasn't a Polymesh. Okay, starting again. Make sure it's a Make Polymesh 3D. Always. Make sure it's a Make Polymesh 3D. So we got our starting shape. We got our modifying shape. I'm going to click on the modifying shape subtool. And you see with subtraction already clicked, we're already getting some subtraction in here. Look at that. That's pretty cool, huh? All right. It's almost like a animating mouth. Now, the neat thing with this is that this sphere is still a fully sculptable shape, even though it's cutting. So I can literally go in here and sculpt on the sphere. And because it's subtracting, it is basically sculpting on the sphere and then subtracting that sculpt from the cylinder. All right. Now, if I wanted to make this a true shape, if I wanted to make this a regular polygon, you need to understand that what we're looking at is not a final product. This is simply a preview. Okay. It's a preview because we have the main shape here and the modifying shape here. We don't have one subtool that has both of these. So I need to say, hey, I want to go ahead and run a Boolean operation. So if I'm ready to go, I say, you know, I'm happy with this. We'll go to Boolean right here. Make Boolean mesh. You'll see a little thing pop up here. And then you're going to see a new Z tool. This is really super important. If there's nothing else you write down in your notes, for the love of God, write this down, because I will have half of you guys run a Boolean and go, I don't know why it didn't work. Well, it did. You just didn't find the actual finished blade. So this is the final Boolean. You notice it's one subtool. The preview actually has the cutout in it. So there you go. That's it. That's your final piece. All right. Now, let's say we were doing that with my head. We're going to suddenly have another subtool that also has my head with a mouth cut out. What you need to do is append it to your project. It's basically just making it into another Z tool at this point. Now, let's look at what this is. Topologically speaking, it has really just, it's literally just cut out the interior of the shape, and it has topologized, or it's used essentially the same topology as the original sphere and the original cylinder. The only change is right here along the edge. You see where we suddenly got all these like bunches of little lines right through here? That's ZBrush trying to figure out how to make essentially a cylinder turn into a sphere by going in and saying, hey, this is where all the edges come together. I need to go ahead and like fracture this, fracture these edges so they will match up properly. Okay. You guys get this? Does anyone not get this? What about the ballooning? Do you want me to do another example?
Yes.
Let's do another example. All right. Let's do a sphere. And I'm going to do another sphere. Okay, so I have two spheres. Let's do an addition now. Two spheres, two separate subtools. Okay, the cutter or the addition or the intersector needs to be an additional subtool. You understand that? Yeah. Okay. So I want these two to become one piece. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this little arrow right here. That's going to be my starting subtool. I want to go ahead and add this as an addition. Make Boolean mesh. It's going to think. Did you guys see this Z tool here pop up? Yep. There we go. That is the new subtool, or Z tool, I mean. And it's joined together, it's one piece. Booleaning keeps the original polygroups of the objects involved. So that's the reason why it's multicolored right now. It's not like Dynamesh where it retopologizes the entire surface. I generally find this to be really useful for trying to do low res additions to objects that I don't necessarily want to mess up too badly. So I find this really useful for that. And again, cutting it's fantastic for cutting. You want another example? Let's do an intersector. Okay. All right. So we'll take the starting subtool. Notice the starting subtool is always on the top. So we've done addition, subtraction, and now we're going to do intersection. Let's go and run it. There you go. That's your new Z tool. Again, notice I'm going to a different Z tool. That's the original one, and this is the result. Okay. Any questions about the process? Yeah. So like for this, I'm gonna use it for cutting out the mouth. I saw your hand back there.
I was just asked, so do you still need to keep line Boolean on after you do the final product?
I just leave it on. It doesn't affect anything. A lot of times what I'll do, so like, okay, for example, I was making, so I make a lot of like Star Wars stuff, okay? And so a lot of that's like very mechanical, hard surface shapes. And so I'll do a lot of just Booleaning where I'll just like subtract multiple things at once. And so I may have like one shape, but it has like 20 or so modifiers to it. And I'll just keep live Boolean on the whole time, just so I can keep an idea of like what the end result's going to look like. So I'm working on that. Have you seen Book of Boba Fett? No.
Yeah.
So he has this really heavily modified version of a starfighter in there. And so I just went ahead and I just modeled like the starfighter originally as it would be pristine. And then now I'm going through and like deconstructing it using like Booleans. So you just keep stacking all of those. So yeah, you can leave it on if you want. Even if you don't have something to Boolean, it doesn't hurt it to leave it on. Okay. Good question. So let's go ahead and cut this mouth open. Let's get you out of there. And let's do an append sphere. And I'm going to go and turn on transparency. And this is going to be essentially the, I refer to it as the mouth sac. It's just your interior of your mouth. That's all it is. So it's going to be that hollow space that your mouth encapsulates. In general, Booleaning works better with lower resolution objects. So I would not try to go too crazy with subdividing something a whole bunch and then trying to run a Boolean. You're going to have a bad time, just flat out, you'll have a bad time. So I'm going to go and create the esophagus, the area that goes down into the back of your throat, that tube. So this is going to be the back of the throat sac. Push this in so it doesn't cut through my lips. You don't want to have a throat bag or a mouth bag that's too big. Think of it like you're going to need to be able to fit your gums and teeth in here, but you don't want it to be so big that you could fit like, you know, a watermelon. You just don't need it to be that large. You need to have your gums and stuff to kind of cut through just a little bit so that when you open the mouth, you don't see like your gums and teeth just hovering in space. It looks really weird. Additionally, with the lips right here, I want to give the lips a little bit of thickness. So I'm not gonna like have this like right up against the surface. Let's just kind of bring it back just a little bit. Keep in mind, I did turn on symmetry at 1.2 in here, so that's something I had to manually turn on. There we go. Honestly, the esophagus really just needs to go back down as far as like you're not going to see it in camera. So when you have the character talking, you don't have just like a hole in the back of their throat. So as long as it goes down like out of camera view, you should be fine. Okay. We'll go ahead and take that and make it into a subtractor. And then I need to do a little cut line right here that's going to follow through. So I'm going to do another append, do another sphere. Make it real thin. This is going to be super, super thin. Turn on symmetry. Did not. Interesting. Okay. All right. So anyway, I'm just gonna be following that initial lip line. It's a little off center right here. I need to take care of that. I don't like that. So you guys remember how I can make something symmetrical that's not symmetrical initially? What did I do for you guys? What you got? Say that one more time. Mirror model. Let's look at that. I want to go to deformation and mirror right here. Did that work? You're on the right track. No, not quite. There's one more thing I can do.
Using the selection tool and removing off the asymmetrical part and then mirroring the one that is.
If I mirror, it's just going to flip it over. It's not going to actually mirror it. It's just flipping it on that axis. That's all that mirroring is doing. There is a way I can mirror it to both sides. So both of you are close. Like that's an approach I have used in demoing. And you're right, that is something I will use. But there's one specific tool we've talked about for some of you guys that have had like slightly off models. And I'll just go in and click like one little button and it'll like flip it over and mirror both sides. You guys remember? What did I do for that armored dolphin? You remember what I did for your dolphin?
It was definitely a mirror that you did, or like.
It's mirror and there's another word.
Mirror well.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that what you said originally? I'm in the wrong area. Why didn't you be like, no, you went to the wrong town? Say what? If I didn't hear you properly and I'm doing something wrong up here, that's not what you're like suggesting for me to do, interrupt me. Okay? Because I don't, yeah, if you're right, then yeah, I want you to be right. All right. Modify topology. What's that again? Mirror and weld. Sorry. Stupid math. I can't hear hardly anything. Okay. There it is. All right. So it looks like I've shoved a Catholic communion wafer in my mouth. It's a joke. It's a communion joke, really. I don't get a lot of those. You guys know what communion is, right?
Mhm.
Okay. You never know. All right, let's make that into a subtractor as well. Turn off transparency. And that's essentially what I'm left with. So you get the idea. I'm basically just cutting a tiny little slot, but that tiny little slot goes into a much larger cavity inside the mouth. That's creating that, it's creating that mouth bag. Okay. So let's go and get that move brush. And again, since I can mess with this thing as much as I want, I'm going to try to get this maybe just a little bit thinner. Oh, that's gonna be a little tough given how thin the little thing is. Little wafer piece. Let's go to auto masking, back face mask. And I'm just gonna try to actually turn on transparency again. Yeah, it's not working too well. Okay, tell you what, I'm just gonna cut it and then I can deal with fixing it afterwards. Let's make sure this thing goes back far enough. And subtool. Go back to my original piece, which should be this guy. Keep in mind, any subtools that are visible are going to get calculated into the boolean. So like this neck piece right here, that's going to be calculated into it as well. Actually, if it's below the start, it's going to get calculated. If it's above, it doesn't. But generally speaking, when I'm running a boolean, if I don't want something to be calculated, I'm going to turn off visibility just to be safe. Okay. So actually, let's just go ahead and put that neck in there. I don't want the hair because I really don't need to like weld that to my head yet. That doesn't even look like hair. Not that I even would. It's going to stay a separate piece entirely. So I got that. Got the, let's see, got the lips, got the throat. That's all. Yeah, that's all set up good. Okay, let's go and run this. See what we get. If we get one, should be this one. Ta-da! I got eyeballs in there. I think I just welded the eyeballs to my head. So let's make sure we get that turned off. Turn the eyes off. Now let's go and do it. Do we want eyeballs welded into our head? No, we don't want that. Gonna have a bad time. Okay. Let's check this one. Looks good. All right. I'm gonna go back to my Z tool here. I'm gonna go to append. And let's append in this guy. All right, so he's gonna be at the bottom. Turn off this, turn off this, turn off this, turn off this. So now I got my head. So I'll hand go up. Someone over here. Jordan, you have a question?
I just, when you add a tool and then your subtool, how do you get rid of it if you added the wrong one?
If you add a subtool to your Z tool,
Yeah, so like you have the head and you're
Mhm.
adding something like how you've been adding like the throne and everything. But if you add like the wrong thing, how do you delete that?
just select that subtool and go to delete.
Uh,
Okay. I'm starting to get a lot of subtools here that aren't necessarily useful for me, but I don't necessarily want to get rid of them. I'm a bit of a hoarder when it comes to subtools. So let's talk about folders. Right here it says folder. I'm going to select one of my subtools that I don't necessarily want to get rid of, but I don't necessarily need to like see all the time. I'm going to click folder. I'm going to say, I'm going to call it misparts. And I'm just going to start dropping parts in there that, again, I don't really want to get rid of, but I don't really want to use anymore. A lot of times with sculpts, I'll have multiple folders. That's just like, like version 1, version 2, version 3, and I'll just like keep all the parts in here. And then at the end, will do like a final folder that's like just all final parts. So I know which folder to go to and work with if I need to. Okay. Turn that off. So visibility for all of that stuff in the folder is turned off. And there we go. Smooth it just a little bit. I have that back face mask turned on. Let's turn that off. Auto masking. Thought I had back face mask. It's kind of acting a little weird. That one had back face mask. Okay, there we go. That's better. Looks like I did a couple of things on here that weren't fully symmetrical. So I just went back to the beginning of my history. So okay, turn symmetry back on. Should be good to go. Okay. Smooth this line just a little bit. And we'll start making some gums and teeth. Okay. All right, let's do a sphere. Let's pull this guy out here. That's our old sphere. He's fine. We'll use it. Let's mirror and weld it real quick. Okay. So this is going to be essentially my mouth shape, or the not mouth shape, but the interior mouth shape. So this is gonna be like where all my gums essentially root into, and then I might have like a uvula in the back of the throat, and then there'll be a hole back there, so that like everything can go down into the throat. So let's go and start kind of cutting this. I'm going to use actually folders to kind of keep all of this together. So with this sphere selected, let's go to new folder. Go to interior mouth. And now I can kind of start duplicating some of these pieces. So duplicate that sphere, moved it back into the folder, because duplicating it pops it out of the folder. And then let's make that a cutter. This piece right here, it's going to be the positive part. So I'm just going to start kind of pulling it, creating that general shape. I'll hop over to the sphere, the cutting sphere. Let's pull this back a little bit. It might end up looking like a set of dentures, just FYI. If anyone has any denture fears. It's going to be the one that's below whatever piece is going to be your primary piece. So yeah, I think of it as like math. Usually you'll start off with, one number minus the next number. So you're just going to keep modifying it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And actually, by default, it's always going to be adding. So it doesn't really change anything until you subtract it. Bring this a bit further back. See, it's kind of tearing a little bit in there. Good. Just trying to get it far enough back to where I can see around it. Let's go and do a Dynamesh on the cutter, so it'll smooth it out. I'm going to end up Dynameshing both of these. I'm going to cut or pull back on this and just cut this apart. Run that Dynamesh again. Let's go to this one. Run Dynamesh. Hop back over. Come on. There you go. Remember, guys, I'm just using Alt-Tab to switch between my subtools. Interior of the mouth, we kind of got those ridges and the roof of her mouth that kind of go a little bit like that. It's very simply just going to go in and add a few. If you ever wanted to sculpt tonsils, this would be the place to do it. And then I'm going to add the uvula, a little dangly bit in the back. the way I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to take a sphere. And so I'm going to be doing what essentially amounts to as a subtraction and then an additional part. So it's going to be kind of cool. So this is going to be going into that folder. It's going to be underneath the subtraction. Let's take. There we go. Let's go on Dynamesh U. Put you in the back of the throat. And this is where your order of operations really is going to become really important. Okay. So the uvula, in terms of its position, if you look at how this is ordered, we have our primary piece right here. That's going to be the subtool. Then we have our cutter, which is going to be the interior of the mouth. And then underneath that is the uvula subtool. Now they're ordered in this way very, very specifically because we need that cavity for the uvula to exist at all. If we had the cutter and then the uvula switched on their stack, the uvula gets cut out. Does that make sense? But if we swap them, then we have the cutting operation happening first and then the addition operation happening second. Yeah. So like another practical example is with that ship I'm making, I'm building this engine, okay? And so I have to cut out parts of the engine with using booleans. I'm doing subtractions on the booleans, but then after that, I'm doing additions below it, where I'm adding like pipes and fuses and switches and plates and all this other stuff. And because I'm cutting that cavity out, I can then add these parts. All right. Any other questions, guys, so far?
The purpose of like giving it the mouth, the inside of the throat and everything, are we gonna like make it move, make the like our bust move or anything? Like
So the goal of this, like, and the goal honestly with all of our projects, is for you to model this in a manner where it could be rigged. We're coming at this from the perspective of an animator. We're not coming at this from the perspective of, and I hate to separate the two terms, but we're not coming at this from the perspective of like an artist, where like Michelangelo would never sculpt David doing this.
yeah.
He would never do that. But if I was going to be sculpting David, I would do this because this just makes it so much easier for me to sculpt like this. I can do it in half the time. But you know, the artistic thing is you want to have form of movement and lines and negative space, and it's all we're all thinking of that composition. You know, that stuff that Jess hammered into y'all's heads when you were in Wash, right? Or Ship probably mentioned at some point under his breath in sculpture. I'm kind of breaking you guys away from that. Sorry, Kiki, I just saw the same big. You got your hood up. It was funny. So again, we're coming at this from the perspective of this may be rigged at some point, and we need to consider that. Because if you don't understand the concept of modeling something to be rigged or animated, then you're not really an animation modeler. And you're not fitting well into that pipeline, which is again another reason why symmetry is such a huge deal. Especially when we get into rigging, you guys are going to be like, especially when we're rigging like legs or arms, you're going to be like, holy hell, imagine if this thing was asymmetrically sculpted. Okay, makes sense.
So like, so would it be better for me just to have like my mouth just stay normal, like closed instead of being open?
So for me, it depends on the character. And I'm not coming at this from like just humans, but just characters in general. Some characters I will have the mouth a little open. I never have characters' mouths that are like wide screaming open, because that's an extreme position. And again, thinking of animation, 90% of the time, your character's mouth is going to be shut. Just like your mouth is shut right now. Everyone's mouths in here are shut except for his. He's probably sitting there making like weird tongue faces. But he's got a mask on, so I don't know. You know, unless you're like born in a Walmart, you probably keep your mouth closed all the time, right? You laugh, but you know I'm right. You know what I'm talking about? Sitting there looking at Campbell soup. But you know what? If that's the character, then sculpt him like this. But most humans, with all their, you know, all their genes intact, will be posed like that. So yes, in general, for humans, I would sculpt their mouths closed. Also because again, that face form is very important to be able to have that relaxed position. Same reason why I don't ever sculpt hands in a fist, or same reason why I don't sculpt hands like straight out like that. I always will relax them. So we're thinking of like neutral positions here. Now, are you thinking of you're doing Gordon Ramsay, right? So I might relax him a little bit. I might relax him a little bit. Maybe just take his mouth, go ahead and just like close it a bit, but still have like those big pouty lips that you kind of had in your drawing. Okay. Okay. Anyone else have any questions before I move on? All right. So let's go ahead and turn this into a subtool. The nice thing with using the folders is they have this little gear right here. You have a bunch of different options. If you want to move everything in that folder at once, you can do that by clicking transpose set, and you can move it all as one piece. Basically, I'm moving 3 different subtools at once, so that's pretty useful. This little button right here, turn it off, and then you can turn it on right there. So you actually have an option to do that. Pretty cool. Another thing that's nice, you can duplicate a folder, you can merge a folder, you can boolean a folder. So if I want to boolean the whole folder together, I have that option, and it's just going to affect just the folder. So I can have other stuff visible, and it won't affect that. I actually really like doing the folder booleaning quite a bit, just because it's a little bit faster, and I actually don't have to keep going back up there and messing with stuff. So once it booleans, you'll notice it turns off all of this, and then you go down, and your booleaned subtool is now underneath that folder. That's pretty nice. I really like that. All right.
If you want your character to be like having his mouth open for the portrait,
You have to model this.
Okay.
Again, like what I was saying, we're coming at this from an animator's point of view. This is like in the assignment sheet, you have to model the gums, teeth, tongue. Even though we may not see it, you're still going to have to model it. Okay. Yes, we good? Okay.
So we have to model the
It's in the assignment sheet. It's listed. I list exactly what you have to model. Okay. All right. So I feel like this is not going to fit. Probably not. Let's scale it down a little bit. All right, I think that'll probably work. I'm gonna get it pretty close to right about there. Now let's go ahead and start doing some teeth. For this subtool, let's go ahead and I'm actually gonna run a Dynamesh. Let's go a little bit higher. And I'm gonna go in and basically just kind of smooth out that gum line right there. Let's go ahead and make a tooth. Does anyone know how many teeth you have in your head?
30 something.
Is it 32?
Is that Lucy?
Yeah.
You're correct. It is 30 something. My father has been a dentist for about 40 years or 45 years. So I spent a lot of time as a child in a dental office. So I got to learn a lot of stuff I don't necessarily ever wanted to know. And people ask me, but John, dentistry pays really, really well. Why didn't you go into dentistry? I'll say, because I know things, man. I know things. If you ever want to hear some really disgusting stories, feel free to come and find me. I'll make you regret asking me. All right, so I'm going to use the tooth. I'm going to start off with the incisors, relatively square shaped. So I was going to take that. Let's actually trim that tooth. So Control Shift, I'm using a trim curve. I'm going to hit Alt. You'll see that gives me a slight curve on that trim. I like it. I'll do a trim on the other side. It's not what I wanted. And then I actually have a little chisel edge on our teeth. Then let's go shrink that down. Let's use a deformer. I'm going to do a bend arc. So the tooth is actually just a little bit curved. So I'm going to use that bend arc right there. Just bend it just a little bit this way.
Did you get to that triple transformer?
Hang on. It's right here, gear. You choose whichever one you want. I was using the bend arc. Let's use another one. I want to do taper. So this one will taper the tip of the tooth. It's getting real narrow right here. I don't want it to get that narrow. So I'm going to turn down the tapering on the X. And then I want to flare it at the base. Right there. Okay. I'm going to run a, maybe not Dynamesh, but let's do a Z-remesh. That's what our tooth will look like.
In that transform menu that you pulled up, what was the key that you used to pull that up?
It's this gear right here, and you have the move tool turned on,
Okay, okay,
and then you have to accept it when you're finished.
okay.
Okay. So that's gonna be one tooth, and then we'll take this one, double duplicate it. I'm holding down shift when I'm rotating it, it'll snap it to every 5 degrees. So I need to do 180 degrees. That was not 180 degrees.
So when you duplicate it, is it Control D that you do? or-
Nope. Nope, can hold down control when you're moving, and it'll basically just duplicate it. It's like holding down Alt when you're in Photoshop. Actually, I think, kind of looking at this, I need the gums to be a little bit deeper, since I'm getting not enough our coverage right here. So let's pull these a little bit closer together. Because especially the front teeth overlap quite a bit, or they should overlap quite a bit. That sort of looks like a snake's mouth, I'll be honest.
I was gonna say a rabbit, but.
A rabbit snake.
A rabbit snake.
A rabid snake. It just comes out to you and it's like, hey man, I got a little foaming at the mouth problem here.
You might see something like that in Australia.
Is it like if it's a rabbit snake, it's like a spring?
Probably.
That's sounds terrifying, actually. Okay, let's bring this together. Okay, let's go back to here. Kind of overlap. A little more like that. But the bottom tooth is going to be a little bit smaller than the top tooth. Actually, it's going to be more narrow. Probably good. Move topological will come in at this point. Okay. All right. I think that'll work. So we got our 2 incisors, and we got 2 more teeth that are kind of shaped like incisors. So we'll take. Guess we'll just take these 2 and do it again. So I'm going to duplicate again, bring it over. This might end up looking a little terrifying, I'm not gonna lie. And then we're going to do canines. Now let's put a insert primitive. I'm gonna grab a sphere and you'll see where I'm going with this. I'm gonna drop it on top. So I kind of want like a rounded tip to it. Something like that. I'll run a Dynamesh. Although I'd like to have a few more faces than that, so let's up that resolution. There we go, that'll work. And then let's go to move. I'll start kind of shaping this guy into position. Do a little taper. Let's bring just a smidge. Actually, no. There we go. Okay.
That looks like a peak.
I was thinking of the little rock that what's his name stuck in his mouth and How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh, yeah.
The hammer guy that
Yeah, I
kept
know
losing
you're
his
talking
limbs.
about. Went down with hammer.
He literally just stuck rocks in his mouth.
Yep. Just hammers the rock in his gums.
So I was another tooth related piece of trivia. So you guys have seen Hangover, right? So you know the half the movie Ed Helms has his, or Ed Nelms, whatever it is missing a tooth. So actually, apparently he never grew that tooth in as a child. So he actually was missing a tooth his entire life. And for whatever reason, in this interview he was talking about, it was put in there in the script that he loses a tooth. And so he goes to the director and they were talking about how they were going to like make him look like he lost a tooth, and they would just like paint it out or do some sort of visual effect. And he's like, I don't know if you know this, but like, I don't actually have a tooth right here. It's just an implant. So he had his dentist like take out the implant, and like he just walked around with no tooth in for a while.
Wow.
But apparently that was also when he was filming one of the seasons of The Office. And so they had to make him a retainer with the tooth.
Yeah.
So he had to put the retainer in his mouth when he was filming The Office. So it sounded like he was like drunk the whole time, which kind of worked for like later seasons of his character. But then, well, that's cool. I like that. Yeah. Anyway, I thought that was really interesting because I always kind of wondered how they like did the tooth. I figured it was,
Special effects.
yeah, I figured it was something. Yeah. All right. Let's divide you just a little bit. And all right, then we'll go and take this guy. You want to go? Oh, that's right. Delete lower. That down just a little bit. Holding down Alt to change the pivot point. And bring it back up. So these are exactly just the same subtool. I'm just using that masking option to kind of just flip between them. I might be turning myself into a vampire, apparently. All right, and then let's go and add in some molars. So honestly, the molars, at least in my opinion, look pretty dang similar. I'm just gonna make like one and then just duplicate the heck out of it. Actually, let's go back. Let's do Dynamesh. Okay. Go back. Divide that. And let's do damp standard. The add. Actually, no, let's do play build up. And build up little ridges. Now let's go grab that move brush. Move. Pull up the little corners. Dig in. There we go. Oh, looks like a tooth. All right. Yeah, there we go. All right. Take this bad boy. And shove it in some gums. Sounds like someone may be having some sinus issues. If you'd like to go out and get a Kleenex, you're more than welcome to do that to help you with your issues. There we go. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 10. All right, so the last set of molars. All right, I think that's enough teeth. What do you guys think?
Terrifying.
Wait till we get more teeth. We're in weld. There we go. We're in weld. How did you guys do that? We wish there was some sort of consistency. I'm not sure why there's not sometimes. All right, this is where we go in, do this mirror thing, and then mirror and weld, because for some reason it doesn't seem to think that this is the same. I don't know. I mean, I feel like they look more human than some teeth I've modeled before in my life.
Maybe it's the mouth shape that's making more animal vibes to me.
Maybe if you just turn off the transparency.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, this goes.
What?
Yeah, the little robot thing from Shark Boy and Lava Girl, that was like disassembled,
That was just the eyes.
and it was just the mouth and the eyes.
That's
It's creepy looking.
Sorry, I only watch good movies.
The classic.
The classic Robert Rodriguez film. Honestly, I've never seen one of those. I have no idea how good they are.
That
If
whole
you
thing
look up
reminded me of that.
Snowboard and Sharkboard Lava Girl and you look at this, it's so similar.
I mean, to me, it just looks like a pair of dentures. So
British.
Looks like.
I think my teeth look better than some people in Walker County.
They're just shit teeth, that's all it is.
Some of them haven't hit 30 teeth yet. And we're not talking about losing the wisdom teeth either.
Luckily it was a form of wisdom teeth. I was 16 when I got a fun day. I did X-ray, like, yeah, you have wisdom teeth. I'm like, great, less to do with mouth. What expander reducer or increases 3 times.
It's interesting that like not having wisdom teeth is actually like a genetic trait. It's kind of weird.
My dad had 1 wisdom tooth, my mom had all 4, my sister had all 4. And I was born with none.
I'd be curious if you had kids, if they had like all of theirs, or if they, I guess it would also depend on like, you know, if whoever you have kids with has all of theirs, but
Like, I don't think my fiance has a wisdom tooth either.
well, then that would be very interesting. Get back to me when you have kids and be like, I guess, no, it'd be like when your kids start getting wisdom teeth, then it'd be like, oh, no, they only have like 2 or
Like
something.
15 years later, hey, do you remember me?
Yeah.
We'll keep you posted, yeah.
Oh, God, you actually did it. Oh, God.
What's that age range when the wisdom teeth are supposed to come out?
It's when your adult teeth are coming in, your wisdom teeth are formed at the same time as the adult teeth. And I think they can actually see them like pretty much immediately. It's just they don't start pushing up inwards until your teen years sometimes. Like my dad, we waited as long as we could on mine because he was like, well, you got a big enough mouth, you honestly could probably, house the wisdom teeth just fine. But then they started coming in like perpendicular. So they were like pushing my other molars out of place. So I was like, nope, we gotta get them out. Gotta get them out.
My brothers had started to emerge. We were about 16 or so, and he had plans to go to the military, and you have to have them out before you go to the military. So we were like, might as well just hit 2 birds with 1 stone, because mine were still perfectly nested in their mouth. So, but they were like
Little baby birds.
I got my wisdom teeth removed and an error happened, so I can't taste on half of my tongue.
What?
Half of my tongue is numb, so I can't
How the
taste.
hell did they like?
are you making bank?
I feel that's got to be like that's got to be something you could sue them on. Lucy, are you like secretly wealthy?
No, I didn't sue them.
Why not?
I don't know.
We almost sued this one dentist place I went to where I was getting my braces cleaned, and so they numbed my mouth without my permission just to clean my teeth, and they tried charging us extra for it.
Ow.
The last time they went there, because getting your mouth numbed is not fun.
No, it hurts.
I had to do that multiple times. It's not fun. So the fact that they did that for cleaning, I'm like, yeah, no, mom, we're not going there again. She's like, yeah, no, we're not. And then we found a better place.
I did not start going to a different dentist because my dad was my dentist for years and years and years. And I'd been like, his hygienists have been the ones that always clean my teeth, and I'd never had any issues with my teeth. Never. I never had a filling, never had anything until like I was in my 20s. And so I started going to this other dentist when I moved out of state. And that was a weird experience. It's like trying to see things from like a different perspective. They use the sonic cleaner. It's like that needle thing that like they go in.
Oh, yeah.
And the guy that I had was aggressive with it. It hurt so bad. I'm like, Dad, is this thing supposed to hurt? And he's like, no,
Yeah.
it's not supposed to hurt.
On the top row of my front teeth, when they go behind to clean it, my foot twitches because it's like a really sensitive area. I hate when they clean that.
So you're like a dog, and it's just like,
Yeah, they're like, you okay? I'm like, yeah, that's just really sensitive. I don't like it.
Involuntary, it's fine.
see, it looks more like teeth now. Look at that.
Okay, there you go.
Don't worry about it.
had, when I was in kindergarten, I had expander, spacer, mouth guard, so they had to put heat down my throat to expand my mouth.
Yeah.
My mouth was so small, they couldn't work on it. And then I had braces like 3 times, and then I had like retainers and everything.
You can see these little holes right here. See if we can fix that. Modified topology. Those holes.
Oh,
You do close holes?
Yep.
Makes sense, close holes.
Okay. All right, let's make a tongue. Is anyone in here a fan of beef tongue tacos?
Never heard of it.
Tacos de lengua? I believe.
Kind of like
They're very
barbacoa.
Say what?
Kind of like barbacoa.
No. Actually, I don't think it tastes like barbacoa. It tastes like pot roast. I mean, barbacoa is, I guess, depends on how you cook it. It's like pot roast, but it's just such a interesting flavor. Lucy, do you ever eat them?
Yes, my dad
Yeah.
eats them all the time.
Yeah. Are you a fan of the beef tongue?
And if I think about it too much, I won't eat it.
You don't like the little spongy bits?
No.
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 Here, weld this. There you go. I used to work with this guy in a restaurant in the kitchen named Marco, and he took me to some of the spots in our town one day, and he introduced me to beef tongue tacos. And this was probably like 20 years ago at this point. Oh no, 15 years ago. And he got me beef tongue tacos, and then we also got tripe tacos. And I didn't know what tripe was. He didn't explain it to me. He didn't tell me. You guys know what tripe is?
No.
It's like the intestines. And I was sitting there eating them, and I'm like, dude, what the hell is this? It's like really chewy. And he just kept like pointing to his belly. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? And I should also mention that Marco didn't speak a lot of English. So a lot of like our understanding of each other was like my very basic understanding of like Italian, which then somehow translated to like his Spanish, that we kind of like could figure out what the other person was talking about. And finally I figured it out, and I was like, these are tasty, but I'm never gonna eat them again. I know.
My dad had the exact same story, except that it was called Rocky Mountain oysters. Oh my god.
Did he like them?
No.
No.
Or I think he said that this is somewhat good, and then someone told him what they actually were.
It's that mental image.
Yeah.
Because do you guys know what Rocky Mountain oysters are?
No.
I heard
Yes.
Heard about them?
It's bull tested.
Yeah.
That's a.
Yeah, that's gross. So in that same vein, do you guys know what pizzle sticks are in pet stores?
No.
It's the thing right next to the testicles. Yeah. I was in the pet store picking stuff out for my dogs, and I saw these, and I'm like, what the hell's a pizzle stick? And my wife was like, no way. That's gross. All right. right, I'm gonna turn off, let's turn off the gum so I can see the tongue a little bit better. Let's do a Z remesh. I'm doing the Z remesh right now, mainly so I can get a better topology here. I don't necessarily need a Dynamesh for what I'm doing, because I'm not really adding anything to the model. Let's do cam standard. Let's do this. Okay, so I'm gonna start drawing. I'm gonna hold down Shift. You guys see this line that comes out? Release. Now I get a straight line. Wonderful for doing panel lining on robots. You just basically just go, hold down Shift, do your line, release, hold down Shift, go, and just go pop, 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 and get your edge lines in there. Really, really useful. Soften that up a little bit. All right, turn it back on. Okay, and there's the interior of my mouth. Turn the head back on. We don't see it, but it's there. Any questions about this part?
Will you be posting this on Blackboard so we can go over it over at us?
I hope you guys are still taking notes though. Good. I know it seems redundant that some of you guys are like, well, I don't need to take notes because he's just going to post the video anyways. I get much less questions from people that take notes, even though I'm putting the videos up. Because you guys are writing the stuff down, you're absorbing it more. It really 100% helps you guys to comprehend the subject matter, rather than just like watching the videos intensely and being like, I have to copy every little thing he does. It makes it, at least from my perspective, seeing y'all's work, it makes it much, much better to see you guys, to see your finished projects, and knowing you guys are taking notes and really kind of try to absorb everything. All right, it's 9:57, 9:58. We'll do eyeballs. We'll do eyeball detailing before we switch over to Elsa's stuff. Okay. All right, eyeballs. I have a video actually up there already that details it pretty well, but let's talk about eyeballs. So let's turn this off. Turn that off. So the eyes I have in there are kind of just placeholders at this point. Let's take this. I'm going to actually merge all my teeth into one subtool. So I just got all that together. All right. Turn that off. Okay. See the eyeball. And I'm going to come at this from the top. I'm actually going to be doing radial sculpting for this eye. Okay. I'm going to be trying to use the natural topology of the sphere to try to help me out as much as possible with this. So I'm going to go at this kind of relatively simply. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and hold down Control. And we're going to do a mask with a drag rectangle. And I'm going to mask off the top portion of this. This is going to be basically as big as the outer edge of your iris is going to be. Okay, so if you want to do bigger, then make a bigger mask. If you want to do big ass anime eyes, make a bigger mask. Invert it. And then I'm gonna go to the move brush. Let's center it right there. I'm gonna flatten that right there. So I just scaled it down, that flattens it. I scaled it down and flattened it using the scale tool. I'm gonna scale this in this way. Yeah, see where I'm going with this? And then I'm gonna bring it in. One thing, actually I will mention is I'm gonna hold down Control Shift. One thing I would like to do is to make a polygroup out of this little selection that I have right here. That's gonna allow me to push in and create a pupil. Okay, because the pupil is really just a hole, right? It's not, there's nothing like the pupil is just like a hole to the back of your eye. So a couple ways of doing that. I think honestly, probably the easiest way is if I go to polygroups and there's a group masked option in here. Group masked right there. I should. Yeah, that is a group. Okay. Let's go and do. I want to do a smaller group. So I want to mask in this area. Let's do another group mask. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. So I got a couple of groups going on here. Let's go back to what I was doing before. So this area, gonna push that in because the iris actually pushes in just a little bit. Release that mask. I'm going to select, holding down Control and the Move tool. I'm going to click on this other polygroup I just created, and clicking on that isolates it with a mask. I can then push on that. Let's center that. And I'm going to open that up right inside. So it's going to give you the look that there's, or the idea that there's a cavity, which I guess that's because there is actually a cavity. So I guess that makes sense. Okay. So this is the basic geometry of an eyeball. Okay. We have that little hole for the pupil. We have the iris cone in there. Next step is we're going to go ahead and go to geometry. And I'm going to subdivide this quite a bit. And then let's go ahead and grab a different brush. I'm going to go down to pen shadow. Turn off RGB, go to Z add. And I need to turn on symmetry. But instead of X symmetry, I need to turn on radial symmetry. So I'm going to have multiple points going around here. So the eyeball has a bunch of muscle tissue, the actual iris area, all those striations and stuff. That's actually muscle tissue, striations of the muscle tissue we're seeing inside of there. So I need to create something that kind of sort of looks like that. I will be honest, if you look at actually a real eyeball, that's going to take a lot of work. Let's see, where is it? I don't know if I want to go to a website called Eyeball Politics or Florida Politics. I just want to look at your picture. Okay. Okay, so what I'm basically going to be trying to do is create that kind of crazy randomness of this texturing right in here. Because again, this is all just muscle tissue that's inside of here as the iris kind of like closes and opens up. So we're just going to be using that radial symmetry option in there to kind of create that same pattern. So I'm just going to turn off polyframe. And then we'll keep going. So let's do a transform, radials turned on. I'm going to up my radial count. Let's go to like 40 or 50. Brings the intensity down. And just start going. And one thing I'll do is I'll really kind of grab in here on the corner and it'll break up that perfect circle. And I'm going to bring down that radial count. Maybe go in with the inflate. It really kind of like brings out some of that detail. And smooth it out just a little bit. Turn off symmetry. Maybe just kind of go in and just put in a few lines asymmetrically. Yeah, I'll keep that. Smooth out some spots a little bit more. Just keep layering in strokes. There you go. Hey, Pat. And that's pretty much the basis of it. You could add in some veining in the back if you wanted to. You might see like around the corner of the eye. It really depends on just how realistic you want to be. Because in a way, it's kind of like that Epicurious, like beginner, mid, advanced level, like just depending how like advanced you want to go with this. Now let's grab a pinch. This one I'm gonna turn symmetry back on. And let's do Z add. Pinch this up a little bit. Just to kind of tighten up that edge. Okay. All right, I'm gonna call it done for the eyeball. Let's go ahead and place it in the head. Make sure we go ahead and turn off symmetry. I'll put the center point in the middle of the eyeball, rotate it 90 degrees. Turn myself into a cyclops. All right. Let's duplicate that subtool. Why not mirror and weld? Good question. So I still have subdivisions on this guy. So if I do a mirror and a weld, I have to delete the subdivisions. So I'm not doing mirror and weld. I'm basically just gonna place them where I need them because I do want to keep the subdivision levels. Specifically, because I have that topology that I worked with in the eyeball itself, where I had that sphere. Remember, I made that new polygroup, I shrank it down, I pulled it into the eyeball itself. Remember all that work I did? Yeah. So I did that specifically to keep that topology in there. So I would like to actually keep the, I would like to keep that topology and keep those subdivision levels for a little bit. Good question. So actually, you know what? Simple. Since I did do that duplicate, you could just mirror it. But then again, this one actually doesn't want to do multiple subdivision levels. So let's do a little problem solving here. Okay, because I do need this on the opposite side. And I do want it pretty much mirrored, but I do want those subdivision levels. So I need to figure out a way I could do this. So one thing I can try is I can basically go in and let's take this eyeball, the one that we're mirroring. I'm going to duplicate it again. Okay. That first one, I'm going to do a delete lower. So it has no subdivisions. And then let's do a mirror. So it pops it over to the other side. Okay. I don't have my subdivision, so I need those. So what I can do is go back. Remember that duplicate I just made?
Yeah.
So this guy, I want to drop him down all the way to subdivision level 1. I'm going to say delete higher. So it doesn't have any subdivision levels, but it's got, you know, that really low 8,000 faces I started off with. What do you think I do next?
Mirror and weld.
Well, I'm going to mirror it. I'm just going to mirror it. Yeah. So let's go back to deformation. Mirror that. So now I have a high subdivision level version and a low subdivision level version. Okay. Anyone take a wild guess what I'm about to do?
delete one of them.
Eventually. But that's going to be after I do something special. So I'm going to take the high poly one. I'm sorry, I'm going to take the high poly one, and I'm going to project its details onto the low poly one. Okay, that's actually going to be really useful because we'll use this in the future. I'm trying to think if I don't know if we've used this already. Maybe not. I'm going to subdivide the low poly mesh. So roundabout where the high poly mesh was, I think it was like 8 point something million. Both of these are going to be visible. Nothing else is visible. I'm going to save my project just to be safe. I haven't saved it in a while. And then I'm going to go to Subtool Project, and it's going to project those details. Make sure both of these subtools are turned on. Go to Project, Project All. And so what's happening is it is calculating the differences between the high resolution mesh and the low resolution mesh. It is taking that low resolution mesh and matching it to the high res mesh. So it's basically just creating a copy. It also take a couple seconds to do this. Well, it may take a few minutes. So once this is done, I will delete this high res mesh. And then we have our two eyeballs with subdivision levels with proper topology. So that'll be really useful. One of the reasons I'm going for the proper topology is in rigging, what I might do is I might actually rig this eye, the pupil or the iris area to contract and make the pupil smaller or bigger. So you ever seen like a character get like really scared or really like mad and like its pupils get really small or really big? That's basically what I can do with that topology. So I'm just trying to think ahead.
It's like with cats when they get excited, their pupils are so wide.
And you know, if like you slightly move, they're going to like run all over you and do things. Mine just like meows extremely loudly in the middle of the night, like scares the crap out of me when I'm trying to sleep.
Bites my nose when it's, if I'm laying down, I'll bite my nose when she wants to.
So it's identified you as a prey item.
Yeah.
All right, that's actually the last thing I was going to do for the demo today. So why don't we take a break for about 5 minutes? And then when we come back, I'm gonna take a walk around, answer any questions you guys have. I want to see your progress on the project. Remember, the assignment for last week was you needed to be where I started off today. So, or where we finished from last week, same place. So make sure you have that project up and I want to take a look and see where you are, okay? Okay. So if you want to get up, use the bathroom, take a few minutes, whatever.
You're sore.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
You doing all right?
Duplicate, does it offset?
I mean,
Is that
does
a
it
true
mirror?
clone? It's not a true clone, right? So it doesn't put
Um,
it in the same position.
When I duplicate it, it is a true clone. It's just making a duplicate of that model. But then
a
I
true
can,
clone puts it in exactly the same location. So is it putting it in exactly the same location?
Yeah.
Because when you drag it off to the side, it didn't drag it straight across, it dragged it out in the open. What did
I
you do?
had a slight offset on the rotation.
Is that it? Okay.
So I
And what
had
is-
rotated the eyeball. just
So
a
when
little
it
bit.
mirrors, what is it mirroring on?
There's a central axis.
Okay, and
So
can you
bilateral symmetry.
identify a different axis that it would mirror on, or
Yeah.
are you stuck with that?
Now you can identify
Okay.
X, Y, or Z.
Okay.
Yes, sweet. The original. Yeah, 2 eyeballs. Let's see. Behold. There it is. We made a mouth and tongue and eyeballs today. And then sculpted on a,
Are they supposed to be self-portrait?
for me it is, they're actually doing,
Mr. Potato Head.
well,
That red
somebody-
color looks like Mr. Potato Head.
somebody kept making comments that it looked like Dwight Schrute, so. No, they're doing celebrities.
Oh, is that what
So they're doing bust off celebrities since you can find pictures of celebrities more easily. And some people have aversions to sculpting themselves. So
I just thought, Cootie.
what is cootie?
You don't know the game Cootie? Oh my
No.
God, listen to that. Wouldn't make much sense to explain to you. I think it's a child's finger eye development kind of a thing.
So what in the
You have a
world
body, a head,
do you
eyes.
need to
antenna.
develop?
Oh, kids need it. Yeah, otherwise.
Do
kids
you
can't
need to
write.
develop it though?
I bought it for my granddaughter and that's.
Okay, that makes more
Oh,
sense.
thank you. And so, I mean, it was classic. It's like Mr. Potato Head. It's back in that. There were no cooties in Toy Story.
That's just Mr. Potato Head.
Oh, that's too bad. Or the Slinky Dogs and Mr. Toy Story.
Yes, and they were voiced by the only Slinky dog was voiced by